Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another week of Reddit League. We're back to our world map on a hard world, and we've got a Division 5 matchup for you today. Penguin versus Soundbite. We've seen Soundbite once before, I believe, so far this
Yes.
season, but this is our first view at Penguin. And yeah, Calamity, a pretty good matchup. Both of these players, as we take a look at their stats, kind of dead center in that table, and their kind of records kind of reflect that as well, of course.
Yeah, exactly. They're both in that sort of middle of the table scenario in Division 5A where they could, with a fantastic end to the season, maybe challenge for a promotion playoff spot, but most likely they're just looking to avoid the relegation spots. And yeah, they've both done a pretty good job so far this season. We do only have 3 people recording in all of Division 5, so it's nice that we're now able to have at least shown every one of them once at least.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so far, yeah, they've done a pretty good job. Soundbite has, as we've already seen in Australia as well, he's improved quite a bit from the last time he was in Reddit League in Season 3. And we'll see, he is in a situation where he might be able to avoid the direct relegation again,
Mhm.
um, and manage to stay in Division 5. In a Division 5 that is definitely much more difficult than it was back when he first got
Yeah,
relegated.
that's for sure.
Yeah, he is slightly behind in terms of average points, but Ace is almost the same and just slightly behind in terms of position. But I think it's very close. I don't quite have in mind what the points were at this point. But yeah, they're definitely close together so that, you know, if Soundbite wins, he'd definitely overtake Penguin and the other way around, of course. If Penguin wins, then he'd put a lot of distance between himself and the playoff relegation playoff spots.
Yeah, so both of them will definitely hope for a win. Very important for them to stay in Reddit League with those final spots getting kicked out and having to requalify. But they will be doing it on a hard world map. And Calamity, that kind of sounds almost like a bit of a contradiction. It is a world map, so, figuring out the country, usually not the hardest thing to do. So you're going to have a little bit easier time with that. But maybe what is hard about this map is the fact of just kind of pinpointing could be very tricky.
Yeah, the hard world map, essentially, to explain to the viewers what it is a collection of the 24 hardest countries in Geoguessr according to Alloc. Um, can be debatable about some of these, but the hard ones are definitely in there. And therefore, while it may not always be the most tricky to find out where you are, finding out, well, which country you are, finding out where in that country you are could be very, very tricky. But our players do have 5 minutes for every round, so we'll see if they can make use of that. Because in difficult countries, you do sometimes get that scenario where you're like, well, more time here isn't going to help me. I'm not
Mm,
going to find anything that's actually going to be useful unless I travel, like, I don't know, for 20 minutes in a direction. Um, so definitely going to be interesting to see how much use they get out of their additional time.
definitely. Yeah, so grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy another world map one in this one as we will jump into round number one. And this country should be pretty recognizable right off the bat, as we have had it in
Yes.
Reddit League on its own before. What was it, season
Yes.
2?
I think it was season 3, if I don't, I'm not getting this wrong, but let me quickly
Yeah,
look it up. We'll have plenty of time here.
yeah, I believe it is Kyrgyzstan, by the way.
Yes. Oh,
The
you
car
might
as
be
well as those
right.
white painted trees. Thought it
Yeah,
was
it
in my
was
first
season
season.
2.
Yeah, it was my
Yeah.
first season in Reddit League because I missed season 1. So
Yeah,
I
it was
actually I
longer
actually
ago than I
practiced that
thought.
season. So yeah. We'll see if they can recognize the country. Combination, as I said, with cars and some of the geography, as well as, well, that flag that Soundbite has will definitely help out.
Yep. But the more difficult part is where within the country are
Yeah.
you? The kind of annoying thing, I guess, in a world map like this is that those countries are so different in terms of size
Mm,
that if you're in a country like Kyrgyzstan, it's not really big enough to make much of a difference. Like you can
mm,
drop maybe at worst 600-700 points. But if the next round puts you in Russia or Indonesia, then the 500 points aren't going to matter.
Mm-hmm. Very true. So yeah, Kyrgyzstan definitely has some very distinct regions. The road loop around the lake is quite recognizable. Bishkek, obviously the capital, recognizable. I think Osh in the kind of south west is a pretty noticeable region. The mountains, of course, very snowy and very mountainous. So we can kind of rule out the mountain regions because this is obviously one of the flat plains. But apart from that, a town name or two could definitely be helpful. And it looks like it is Penguin who has that.
Yep, Suzak.
If he can. He is currently looking around the lake, but my guess would be closer to the southern part of the country. But now, Soundbite picking up on this sign as well. Gotta love the former Soviet architecture you get in these countries. Yeah, and
yep. Penguin. That's definitely not an area that looks like this.
But at least both of them recognizing the country. They got still 2 minutes to try to figure out where in this country. Scan the map. Again, it is a very small country in terms of if you know the coverage, you can kind of ignore quite a bit of it. And
yeah, you can ignore most of it, actually.
Yeah.
You basically have the major roads. And Soundbite is looking pretty much in the correct region.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just a bit too far zoomed out, and now he looks away again.
Yeah, unfortunately, didn't quite catch the city name, too far out, which is always a big pain. You're like, man, if I would just zoomed one more click in, I would have seen the town, and I didn't. But still a minute and a half to go. He could come back around to it. Pingwin, on the other hand, trying to just travel a bit more to find some more clues. But, I mean, he's zoomed in pretty hard in that area and did not see that town name. So, yeah, he should be starting to look somewhere else. And he is.
Yeah, it can be pretty tricky in Kyrgyzstan as well, because sometimes the town name just doesn't show up, or it's something different on a map. But this is a case where it would be findable.
He has checked out other areas of the country, but just can't quite dissuade himself from focusing on that northern area around the capital. Soundbite, on the other hand, has moved his pin a little bit, but he's still mostly around that lake area. But again, like as we said, Calamity, they're in pretty different areas of the country, but maybe they're going to be separated by 100 points, 200 points.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the problem on maps like this. Also, why I'm not a particular fan of playing world maps in sort of competitive games, because if you do have a scenario like that, it can just end like that, where you can like quite significantly be better in 4 of the rounds, but still lose just to random chance in Indonesia or something like that. But as time runs out, they're both not going to be able to find where it is, but Soundbite a bit closer.
Yeah, a bit closer. Last minute adjustment. I think he actually moved himself further west. Will earn him a couple more 100 points. 451, 4,293 for Pingwin. So yeah, Soundbite, a slight lead going into this one. Both of them scanning the right area, just not catching the city name. And as you can see, it is on the map, but pretty far and away from where the actual pin is, and not really that helpful. It's kind of very small on the map there. So yeah, not bad. I think we could definitely praise them for recognizing the country off pretty quickly too. Didn't take them very long to pick up on that.
Yeah, it wasn't very difficult either there.
So we will, according to Calamity at least. So we'll head on in to round number 2 then, as we get ourselves set up. Here we go. And well, I would say another pretty recognizable country. I think what we really want is a language, and I think Pingwin just went right past one. Yeah, there we go. English, so Philippines.
Yes. And now they're going through the middle of nowhere for a while.
Yeah. Well, again, another one of those countries where the country very recognizable within pretty short amount of time, but then, man, pinpointing in the Philippines can get a bit tricky. Plenty of islands spread out.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of want to know the provinces of the Philippines.
Mhm.
So, because essentially, the problem you have in the Philippines is that on the map, the provinces actually don't show up. What shows up are the regions, um, which means that in a lot of scenarios, you have to know the province to get any kind of use out of it.
Mm.
But it is generally the best thing to get you closer to
Mm.
the right location.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to find a full address in the Philippines, it will help you narrow yourself down as it gives you all those levels all the way down. So very helpful, but they are a rare sighting indeed. And yeah, it will be Soundbite who moves his pin onto the Philippines first, but I think we can hopefully assume that Pingwin also knows the location, just hasn't bothered to go to the map. It does take some time, so spend that time looking for where he is first.
Yeah, I think Penguin has done the same thing in round one as well in
Mhm.
Kyrgyzstan, where he just didn't go onto the map for quite a long time.
Yeah. Time management, even with 5 minutes, is something you should be thinking about. How best to spend your time. 2 minutes gone, and yeah, all pretty much just the country really we've got. Neither of them have seen anything to give away, at least concretely, what area of the country they could be in. Penguin will head back to the start and head south, while Soundbite's still heading north. This one.
Yeah, it looks like Penguin is just going through the middle of a, well, not inhabited area.
Mm. At least,
Yeah, few houses here.
yeah, that's kind of just low density Philippines, right? You're just like, oh, there's houses and huts connecting every little town. People are just spread out everywhere.
No, does that say something interesting on that truck?
I
I don't think so.
Soundbite doesn't give it more than a quick glance, and there's a sign there. Well, there we go. There's might be some kind of town name.
Yeah.
But again, probably not easy to find.
Definitely not easy to find.
Mm. But I mean, compared to Kyrgyzstan, at least, Philippines, you could definitely drop a lot more points. If you're on the wrong island, it is much kind of drawn out, much more drawn out. So
Yeah, definitely. You can drop a lot more points here. Yeah, and the problem is kind of the Philippines. I mean, I'm sure some people who live there would disagree, but the Philippines all kind of look pretty similar, no matter which island you're on necessarily.
yeah.
Um, so it's not really easy to make an educated guess based on landscape that you're
There
seeing.
we go. National something, but it's a kilometer marker, but National Road SN 30, kilometer 371. So I don't know if that's something findable.
I'd assume SN is the abbreviation for some kind of city.
Yeah, and
But it doesn't tell you which national road it is.
mhm.
So, well, good luck finding a city that would be abbreviated to SN and it being the right one.
Yeah. So, Pingwin does have a little bit of a look with 30 seconds left. It's about all he's got to go off of. And we'll just pretty much waiting for that clock to tick down to see if they want to make any last minute instinctual corrections to their location. I mean, you might make a guess you're sort of in the middle of nowhere. There's no big bodies of water nearby, so avoid a coastline, but even that isn't going to narrow it down for you a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Penguin is slightly heading to the south, and that will actually be his downfall, hedging his bet to one side of the country, which isn't a bad move, but just unlucky. 3,697, and Soundbite goes for pretty much the dead center, 4,623, and it actually really pays off. He's only one island away, not far from one of the many San Franciscos that are in the Philippines, which is always a pain in the butt when you're like, oh, San Francisco, but which one? So Yeah, quite a significant lead there. He gets to just over 900 points for him in that one, Calamity.
Yeah, and San Narciso, actually the SN that could have been findable potentially. But yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of other cities that are abbreviated to SN in the
Yeah,
Philippines.
exactly.
And yeah, Soundbite just a bit closer. Penguin maybe taking a little bit of a risk there. And it just did not pay off.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's jump into round number 3. Yeah, about just over 1,000-point lead then for Soundbite going into this one. And well, they're both going to follow the truck for a little bit. Hoping to see something, I guess, on the back of it, but a couple signs that we'll look at. Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
At least helps out a little bit.
Penguin did spend about 5 seconds reading that sign.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
Dead end, so he will turn around and head south, which Soundbite already has done. Didn't pay much attention to that sign, but looking for other things, he might have made a note of it as he passed by. Yeah, Spanish mountains. I mean, South America. But
Yes.
yeah, for me, it is really tricky, especially in some of these rural areas, to figure out which one.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Spanish mountains could also be Mexico or Spain, just, not this kind of climate.
Yeah, guess we could add that caveat. But yeah, I mean, what, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru? Maybe not Peru. I don't think it's
Yeah.
that. I don't think it's that mountainous.
Peru definitely does have some pretty big mountains, but yeah, it could look like that in certain places for sure.
Let's say the Andes, Andreas or something. But of course, the mountain range goes through many countries, so it doesn't really help you out too much.
Yeah, I was about to say, even if it did, it's not particularly helpful.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm in the mountains, the biggest mountains in South America. Oh, I kind of already knew that. Yeah, Penguin really taking some time to read all these little signs, maybe checking out that power pole as well, hoping to pick up a clue. Soundbite here.
I
Oh,
really
that was
don't
that.
know what.
Was that the?
Hmm?
That was a flag, I think, either Ecuador or Colombia, because the icon is never on the painted signs. But I don't know if he picked up on that, but I thought he did.
I didn't.
Yeah, it was the blue, red, and yellow. Just 3 stripes on the sign. So as long as you kind of make it click that could be one of those 2 countries, and it does appear that at least Penguin will believe we are in Mountain Road in Ecuador, given the flag
Yes.
we just saw based off of Soundbite. That's not a bad guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure what specifically about that sign made him go there.
Yeah,
It's not like I can read what it says.
it's a little bit too small. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Bolivar.
there's some first signs, yeah.
Some town names.
I think the most
Mm.
the thing that stands out the most about kind of watching, I'm gonna call them these Division 5 players,
Mm.
play this seed is that they're looking at way too many unnecessary things.
Mm.
I think it was when I played that, I was around this area with 3 minutes 30 left on the timer or something like
Mm.
that. And on the way there is nothing interesting. At most, there'll be something that might help you narrow down the country a bit, but that's not really any use for you. Who cares about the country at that point? What you want is some solid information that will help you pinpoint later on.
Mm. And
And
unfortunately, it
yeah,
looks like Soundbite is being a little bit distracted by the town name, thinking we're in Bolivia, but gotta be careful. A lot of those Spanish town names very similar. And there
that should
is,
convince him otherwise,
yeah,
hopefully.
that should definitely. That's the yeah, that's the what's the word I'm looking for? Transport logo? Or
It might be. I don't know
Ecuador?
if it is.
So
Yeah, Penguin's finally getting into the town.
yep, and there's another logo for the Ecuadorian government, so that will make him move his sign. And now he has a few town names to look for now. A couple seconds left to find it, and oh, he found it.
Oh, right, yeah.
He found Bolivar, not too far away. So not able to really pinpoint it, but definitely very close. 4,947. So that last minute sighting of a country logo, governmental logo, does move him to the right area, and then that town just pops up. Very nice save. Yeah, again, Pingwin was the one who was kind of in the right country the whole time, but just as you said, spent a lot of time looking at signs that were just not helpful. 4,251.
Yep. We like to complain about the likes of Mr. Blue or Raymond going slow, but that was just way too slow. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so a bit of a tip if you want to improve and move up to Division 4, you definitely want to not repeat that. And we'll get into round number 4. Still a manageable lead, I would say, especially if it's a it's a hard world map. But again, country very easy.
Yep.
On this one.
South Korea is not going to make you drop 1,800 points.
No. I think even if you're across the whole country, maybe you'll lose about 1,000.
Yeah,
on a world map, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd estimate about 800-900, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 1,000 if you're in like maybe Jeju and you're way up in Seoul.
Yeah.
Might get it to you, but yeah, both of them looking around the south part of the country, not a bad move, but we are on a major road with plenty of signs, so this is one of those rounds where I think having the 5 minutes might pay off, because you could just scan a huge swath of the country looking for some of these town names. Now, it's not going to be fun.
I just noticed, why does the border between South and North Korea disappear if you zoom in?
Those politics.
But yeah, this is definitely another one where it's like, yeah, there is a sign that says a few things on it, but do you really want to spend 2 minutes looking for these things that could just be small towns somewhere in the middle of nowhere? Especially because you, as you said, you do seem to be on a, if not a major road, then at least a somewhat bigger road at a toll booth. And you do have, as you see with Soundbite there, you do have another sign right there. So this is a scenario where you definitely want to be checking out all the signs first, just to see if there's any more useful information on a different sign. Because if there is, then you've just wasted 1.5 minutes looking for something that you didn't need to look for.
Yeah, and there's the road number, the 12. Yep. That'll definitely be a lot more helpful.
And if they'd looked at that sign earlier, they would have just saved themselves 1.5 minutes and, you know, could have used that time to search for the smaller towns with a much more, like, specific, in a much more specific area.
Yeah. I will say this. Pingwin does seem much faster at spotting stuff on the map. His map searching skills may be a little bit better, but I would say Soundbite's knowledge in general is just better. He doesn't have as much time to search, and he is a little bit slower, but he does kind of start off in better areas. His instinct just seems to be a little bit quicker, especially after that last round where he's like, okay, I can just kind of zip through the country real quick and just try to even start looking in the right area. And it might have just been bad luck for Pingwin, to be honest, but again, following this road, looking for any of those town names.
Yeah, this is also a scenario where Soundbite playing on a laptop with a trackpad is definitely a big disadvantage.
Yeah. A little bit slower, but I think he just went past it.
I think Penguin's found it.
Yeah, Pingwin has found it. I was about to say, I think Soundbite just went right, when I said that, he just went right over it. And again, just having a little bit of a hard time catching some of these names. It is a lot of language, both in Latin and in Korean, so it can be a bit overwhelming.
Yep.
And that interchange, yeah, looks to be the right one. We are just sort of south of that toll booth interchange with that Y off of it. Seems to match up with about a minute to spare. So I was about to say good job, but again, the points he can make up on this round are still going to be very small because, you know, he'll get an ace. But I mean, like we said, you know, Soundbite's not going to draw 1,000 points in this one.
Yep.
So the comeback definitely started. It'll really come down to round number 5.
Soundbite is in the right area. I'm not sure what he's currently doing, but
can't quite.
He's got his pin down in a good place.
He's hoping some of these towns stick out a lot larger than they actually do. And with only a few seconds left, he's kind of just saying, well, I tried zooming in a lot. I didn't see anything. I'll try zooming out a bit. His recording does skip a little bit, so it's hard to see how much. Yeah, see, again, only 12 miles away, 4,935. So even though he's not able to find it, even get really relatively close, just that road number and South Korea drops not even 100 points.
Yep. That's the problem for Pingwin here, that the country just isn't big enough to make up too many points, and even then Soundbite not too far away just means that he'll go into the last round with still a quite significant point margin that he's behind, and he needs to hope now that we're actually in a big country to finish off.
Yeah, so far a hard world has not been hard enough to give Pingwin a chance to come back. And, well, we're back in the South Pacific. So if it's not the Philippines, it could be big enough. Malaysia, Indonesia.
Even the Philippines could technically be big enough.
I guess it could, yeah.
If there's a really
if
bad
we're looking
guess
at like almost 1,700 points, so it is. Oh no, well, Indonesia.
Indonesia, yeah, that is definitely big enough.
And there we go.
Lose a lot of points.
Province, city. We got pretty much a full address right there.
Yep.
So, and with 4.5 minutes to try to find it, you know, see how familiar they are with Indonesia.
Yeah. And yeah, as I mentioned before, that to me is like the big problem about seeds like this, because this essentially invalidates everything else we've had before. Like Soundbite does go into it with 1,700 points of a lead, which isn't nothing, but if Pingwin finds the round and Soundbite doesn't, then it's GG.
Yeah, even if he's in the right country, Indonesia definitely could drop 1,500, 2,000 points on this one. So, kind of the harsh reality of Geoguessr, where is that even a map? Well, that's a map for Bhutan. So is that what it says? Sorry. Batua, not Bhutan. I'm trying to read it too fast.
It definitely doesn't say Bhutan,
No.
yeah.
So yeah, well, Pingwin will start by just dropping his pin somewhere towards the middle of the islands and start looking. Soundbite does, so far has done the right thing. Keep looking for more information.
Yeah. Pingwin's currently checking islands that don't have coverage, but yeah, it could be at least the outline of something. The problem you have is you don't necessarily know, is it the outline of an island? Is it the outline of a province? Is it the outline of the town borders? You just don't know. And if it is the outline of the town, boundary, then it's entirely useless to you.
Not going to help you out. The name is going to give you a lot more help than that. There are quite decent addresses on there, so if they could knew a little bit. Well, now he's going to guess in the middle of the ocean, so I think that's a bit of a misclick, but he'll correct himself. So Indonesia is one of those where I think you can really learn how these islands are different in some respect.
Yeah,
At least in the names, because they are in Indonesian quite well labeled usually in some small sign like you see here. If you can recognize some of the island names or the major provinces, that will help you out quite a bit.
definitely. But I think especially in rural locations like this, it can be really tricky to even get in a somewhat right area.
Mm.
There's definitely some areas that you can learn to maybe distinguish a bit. I suppose Borneo maybe looks a bit different than other areas.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're on some of the islands in the Far East, like Bali or Timor. But apart from that, if you're like on Java or Sumatra or something like that, then, well,
Yeah, where on Java, I don't know, but that's kind of a little bit better of a clue. And yeah, Penguin will go back to that initial address to see if he can't catch anything else he might know. With a minute left, this might be just the time to start scanning. You know,
yeah.
a minute left, you went a minute or two in both directions, didn't see anything really worth your attention, so now spend it on the map. I think he is. I think he is not in a bad spot. I definitely don't think. I think we're on one of those the more northern.
He is in
islands,
Indonesia,
but...
yes.
No, I don't think we're on Java. So those the two main southern islands. I don't think we're on one of those. But other than that, I really don't know.
Soundbite still not put a pin down yet.
Yeah,
Coming down to 20
yeah.
seconds.
This would definitely not be the. He'll notice that. Definitely does not want to be the time where you get dunked, and he will just put a pin down, and somewhere in the middle of the country, so to speak, amongst all these islands, and hope it's good. And again, you know the country, you hedge your bets. You're not going to drop maybe enough points your opponent can catch up. A very nice round for Penguin, 4,485 on the right island, but so was Soundbite, just a little bit further away, 3,198, and yeah, not enough, I think, to make up that difference, unless my math is really bad.
It usually is, but in this case, you're correct, yes.
Oops. Hang on. Trying to find his total score here, and I jumped too far back.
Yeah, Soundbite did score 22,154, and Penguin 21,726 are the totals. So Soundbite does come out on top by 428 points.
Yeah, like you said, almost gave it up, but
yep,
that lead
just about good enough for a bonus point for Penguin as well.
Very nice.
Who at least gets something out of it.
Yeah. And again, you kind of got to see the makeup of a hard world as a map. Is it a hard world in the sense of the country will be hard to find? No, but definitely quite a few tricky rounds to pinpoint. Only one really that was able to be done, and that was in Korea, and Penguin managed that. But other than that, I mean, easily 4,000 just by being in the right country almost most of the time. So yeah, you can get kind of what's the word? Totally blanked. You can decide for yourself. There we go. If it's a hard enough map or not for you. But we got a couple more of these matchups, so we'll bring you those, see how hard those seeds are. And if you definitely want to check out more of these matchups from Reddit League, either this season or in the past, you can check those out on the channel. So plenty of those to watch. And we will see you all in the next one. Take care.